In the remote mountains of Iran, where the nearest town might be days away by foot, there are no power lines, no grocery stores, and certainly no refrigerators. Yet somehow, these nomadic families preserve fresh milk, meat, and vegetables through scorching summers and freezing winters. For thousands of years, they've kept their food safe using nothing but nature itself. How do they do it? And what can their ancient wisdom teach us about a simpler way of life?
The nomads of Iran, known locally as the Bakhtiari, Kashkai, and Shahsavan tribes, have lived in these mountains for millennia. Twice a year, they migrate. In spring, they move their families and livestock to high mountain pastures where the air is cool and grass is green. In autumn, they descend to warmer valleys to escape the winter snow. Their entire lives are portable. Everything they own must fit on the backs of animals. There's no room for heavy appliances, even if electricity existed out here. But here's what's remarkable. Despite having no modern conveniences, these families rarely waste food. They've mastered techniques that keep dairy fresh, preserve meat for months, and maintain vegetables through long journeys.
In our world of refrigerators and freezers, we've forgotten what they never needed to learn: how to work with nature, not against it. Let's spend a day with these remarkable people and discover their secrets. The day begins before sunrise. Fresh milk flows warm from the goats, about 2 gallons from the small herd. In our homes, this milk would go straight into the refrigerator. But here, something different happens. This ceramic pot isn't just a container. Notice its shape: wide at the top, narrow at the bottom. This design has a purpose. The nomads know that milk needs to breathe, but also needs protection from dust and insects. The damp cloth is crucial. As water evaporates from the fabric, it creates a cooling effect, the same principle behind ancient evaporative coolers. The temperature inside that pot can be 10 to 15 degrees cooler than the surrounding air.
But the nomads know fresh milk won't last long, even in the coolest spot. So within hours, they begin the transformation. By adding a small amount of yogurt, what we call a starter culture, she's introducing beneficial bacteria that will sour the milk in a controlled way. This isn't spoilage. This is preservation. The warmth helps the bacteria work. In about 8 hours, that liquid milk will become thick, tangy yogurt, a form that lasts much longer without refrigeration. This yogurt will feed the family for 3 to 4 days, even in summer heat. But she won't stop there. That goatskin bag will be churned tomorrow, pushed back and forth, until the fat separates and becomes butter. The remaining liquid, called doog or buttermilk, is slightly salty and incredibly refreshing. It also lasts for days without spoiling because of its acidity.
The butter will be salted heavily and stored in a sealed container. With enough salt, it can last for weeks, even in warm weather. Nothing is wasted. Every transformation extends the life of their precious milk. If you ask a nomad where their refrigerator is, they might point to the stream. Moving water stays cold, even in summer. This stream, fed by mountain snowmelt, rarely rises above 50 degrees Fahrenheit. That's almost as cold as your refrigerator at home. The constant flow does 2 things. It keeps the temperature low, and it prevents bacterial growth by never allowing the water to become stagnant. This fresh cheese, made just 3 days ago, is still firm and clean tasting. In a modern fridge, it would last about a week. Here, in the stream, it can last just as long.
But what about when there's no stream nearby? The nomads have another solution. Even on the hottest days, if you dig down just 2 feet into the earth, the temperature drops dramatically. The ground acts as insulation, keeping the temperature steady, cool in summer, warmer in winter. This small pit, carefully lined with clean stones, becomes a natural cooler. The pots are sealed with beeswax around the lids. The earth above them stays shaded by the large boulders. Inside those pots, vegetables, dried fruits, and prepared foods stay remarkably fresh. Cucumbers, tomatoes, herbs still crisp after 4 days underground. The nomads know exactly how deep to dig for each season, which spots stay coolest, and how to protect their food from moisture and animals. Their entire landscape becomes a kitchen, not just one cold box in the corner, but a network of natural refrigeration, each spot chosen with generations of knowledge.
Twice a year, the nomads face their greatest challenge, moving everything they own across mountain passes, sometimes traveling for 2 weeks. How do you keep food fresh when you're constantly on the move? The answer lies in an ancient technique: cooking meat completely, then preserving it in its own fat. This is called kavurma. The meat is cooked until every bit of moisture has been driven out and replaced by rendered fat. Once cooled, this fat creates an airtight seal that prevents bacteria from reaching the meat. Sealed in fat, this meat can last for months without refrigeration. During the migration, the family will open one jar at a time, taking what they need for that day's meal. The fat itself is precious. It will be used for cooking, adding flavor and calories to simple rice or bread. But meat isn't the only food that must travel. Watch these women working with vegetables. By slicing vegetables thinly and drying them in the sun, they reduce the weight dramatically and create food that will never spoil. These dried vegetables will be rehydrated during the winter months, bringing summer's flavors to cold season meals. Everything they dry weighs almost nothing. A whole garden's worth of vegetables can fit into a few bags that a single donkey can carry. Even the cheese transforms for travel. Heavily salted, shaped into small balls, then dried until hard. It becomes something like the Parmesan cheese you might grate over pasta, but intensely flavored and shelf-stable for an entire season. When the caravan moves, their entire food supply moves with them, preserved by sun, salt, fat, and human ingenuity. Not a single cooler, not one ice pack, just ancient knowledge passed down through countless generations. Among the nomads, the eldest women hold the most valuable knowledge. They know not just how to preserve food, but how to transform it into something more nutritious than it was fresh. This is torshi, Persian pickles, but these aren't like the pickles in your grocery store. Watch her carefully measure the salt. Too little and harmful bacteria will grow. Too much and the vegetables become inedible. She learned the exact proportion from her mother, who learned from hers, going back centuries. The brine creates an environment where beneficial bacteria thrive, but dangerous ones cannot survive. Over the next few weeks, those bacteria will transform the vegetables, making them sour, complex, and incredibly long-lasting. These pickles will be ready in a month. They'll last for a year or more. And they're not just preserved, they're improved. The fermentation creates probiotics, aids digestion, and makes certain nutrients more available to the body. This isn't just food preservation. This is education. The granddaughter is learning which vegetables ferment best in which season, how to tell when fermentation has gone right or wrong, and how to adjust recipes based on temperature and altitude. In every nomadic tent, you'll find this same scene: a row of jars, each containing something precious: pickled garlic, fermented grape leaves, preserved lemons, wild herbs in brine. These aren't just survival techniques anymore. They're tradition, they're flavor, they're the taste of home, carried across mountains, preserved through migrations, connecting one generation to the next. In the modern world, we've traded this knowledge for convenience. We've forgotten that food can take care of itself if we work with its nature, instead of fighting against it. Living without refrigeration isn't a burden for these nomads. It's simply life, and it shapes their entire rhythm of eating and sharing. They eat what's freshest first. Morning milk becomes midday yogurt. Leftover bread doesn't get thrown away. It's crumbled into soup or mixed with cheese for tomorrow's meal. And because they cannot store large quantities of fresh food, they're constantly foraging, constantly harvesting what's around them. These children know every edible plant in these mountains. That knowledge, knowing what nature provides in each season, is itself a form of food security. They're never dependent on a single supply chain or grocery store. Their meals are simple, but incredibly fresh. That yogurt was milk just yesterday. The bread dough was mixed this morning. The herbs were picked an hour ago. And here's something we've lost in our modern world. They waste almost nothing. Whey from cheese making becomes animal feed. Stale bread becomes thickener for stews. Bones become broth. Then the broth is reduced to a concentrate that lasts for months. Every evening, there's this quiet ritual of preparation. Not because they're worried, but because this is the rhythm they know. The rhythm humans followed for thousands of years before electricity changed everything. So how do Iranian nomads keep their food fresh without refrigeration? They use water's constant coldness, Earth's stable temperature, salt's preserving power, the sun's drying heat, fermentation's transformative magic, and above all, they use knowledge, passed down through generations, refined over millennia. But it's more than just techniques. It's a different relationship with food. They know where it comes from because they milked the goat, harvested the grain, gathered the herbs. They know how to preserve it because they must. And they know not to waste it because everything requires effort. In our world of endless refrigeration, we've gained convenience. We can eat strawberries in winter and ice cream in summer. We can shop once a week and forget about our food until we're hungry. But we've lost something too. We've lost the knowledge these hands hold, the understanding of how food actually works, how it lives, changes, and can be guided rather than forced into preservation. These nomads aren't struggling. They're not suffering. They're living in harmony with what nature provides, using wisdom that served humanity for thousands of years. So here's a question for you. Could you live without your refrigerator for a week? Could you transform milk into yogurt, preserve vegetables in salt and sun, trust the earth and water to keep your food safe?
Maybe you couldn't. Maybe I couldn't. But knowing that it's possible, that humans thrived for millennia using nothing but observation, patience, and respect for natural processes, that's worth remembering. If you found this glimpse into nomadic life fascinating, please like this video and subscribe for more stories about unique lifestyles and ancient wisdom from around the world. What surprised you most about how these nomads preserve their food? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, remember, sometimes the simplest solutions are the most profound.